Bringing it to creative freedom for a minute, do you remember the various controversies regarding things like Change the Cover, Lionhead Studios, and the Pillars of Eternity controversy?
I don't remember that one in particular. I remember some other things that seems like, yeah, they were changing, I don't know, clothes or things that were coming from some Japanese games, but yeah, I don't remember that one in particular. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes. The okay, we can get to localization. So obviously, a lot of games when they're brought over, um, are localized in a way where they take out large amounts of the content. Ace Combat 3, Fire Emblem Fates, Tokyo Mirage Sessions, many other examples. Do you have any thoughts on that practice as a developer?
Okay, so I think the reasons for why games get censored or change when they move between territories, well, it varies. And sometimes it's for a good reason that is based on some law in the area. Like, for example, when we used to ship our games into Germany, and this is kind of crazy, but when I used to work on wrestling games, they had a rule that you couldn't show blood in a wrestling game. And so we had to make all of our blood stains in the German edition only into green or blue to represent spit or vomit, right? It couldn't be blood, which was crazy, but this is back in the PlayStation 1 days. And so there's a change where somebody might say, well, you're being censored, but you're not. Well, you were doing it because you wanted to be in a market that the market would not allow you to be there otherwise. And so sometimes that happens. And so I can see a case of like, okay, a game coming from Japan, maybe it's coming over and it's maybe too mature to be in the market that they want it to be in. And so they have to censor to hit their market just for sales numbers. And that I don't really object to. But what I do object to is when somebody in a localization role and they're like, well, I don't like what the game has to say here, or I don't like the position of this political thing they're saying, and so we're going to change it to fit my sentiments better. And there are cases of this happening that I've seen. That then I start to go, okay, now you're censoring for ideological reasons and not being true to the game or to the property, and that's where my personal line lies, is in the creative freedom line. If it's a Japanese game that and somehow offends you, or a Korean game or whatever, just don't play it if it's not the right sensibility. That's kind of where my opinion is there.
As an artist, do you feel like they're butchering the artistic work that you've created?
Yeah, it drives me nuts when they go through and cut things out because they feel it doesn't hit sensibilities. Like when they were Roald Dahl, right? The author who wrote those children's books, and they started cutting words out of the books because they felt that they weren't right to the sensibilities. I mean, that's serious violence to your cultural traditions. So yeah, I'm very opposed to anybody censoring an artistic product along ideological or political lines. If you disagree with it, you can make yourself known or explain why, sure, but don't go and cut it out of the game.
Now, video games, I consider them art. Do you consider them art?
I do. In fact, I'm on record as saying I think they're the ultimate art form. I actually think that because they're participatory, that they engage the player in a way that others art forms do not. I consider them to be like an art form that can really impact humanity in terms of their emotion, how they view the world. I think that they're what all the other art forms aspire to be.
Now, video games aren't unique in being the only form of art where it's also a commercial product. So it's not just your vision as a developer you have to take into account. It's also the CEO, the shareholders, the marketing team, all of these different other players in the corporate capitalist infrastructure that you have to interact with and that can influence certain decisions about the game. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes, yeah. In fact, as the game gets bigger and bigger, you get more and more fingers in the pie.
How do you feel about that model?
Yeah, since I'm retired now, I kind of reflect back on how I saw the game industry change over time. I feel like early on, when you got into games, or when I got into the games, which is the mid '90s, as a developer, you had to be passionate. You had to really care about what you're working on because you weren't sure you were getting a paycheck. It wasn't a well-established industry at all. It was very high risk. And so everybody was very passionate about it and worked very hard. And I think that's where we probably got into both some good habits and some bad habits. You know, the overtime hours and that sort of stuff all started in that um, desire to make great art, which I think a lot of us felt we were making when we were first getting into the games because we wanted to make stuff like what we had experienced. But over time, as the game industry grew and grew and grew and became very popular, it switched from being all about enthusiasm and started to become more and more about money making, which is fine, but it turned more and more Hollywood as the investments got bigger, executives got more involved, and now we're at a point where I think, at least in the AAA games industry, it's really, really difficult to make a good game without it just being beaten up along the way by all the different pressures that are put upon it from the money side, now there's all the problems from just how it's going to be received in the market. So you have all these uh, what analyses that they do now. They're trying to product position before the game is even put into design, right? They're trying to figure out what it is they're trying to make. It's just like Hollywood. And so I feel like a lot of the artistic vision has started to slip from the AAA industry and move into the independent games development, where that's where you see a lot of the passionate art being done. And then the AAA industry, I think, is now chasing the independents, and they're borrowing a lot of the good things that you see in independent design and bringing them over into AAA design. For example, Slay the Spire, which is a great, card deck building game, looks to me like it strongly influenced Marvel's Midnight Suns, which was put out by Firaxis. And a great game, by the way. But that's, first you see the idea proven independently and then adopted later by AAA. And I think you're going to keep seeing that happen in the industry. So if you want to do like cool art, go independent. If you want to make, big games where there's a lot of corporate overhead and you're working as more of a cog in the wheel, then AAA is where that is that's the police force of the game industry now.
Hi, I'm Techie on Blue. Thank you for watching another one of my GamerGate book video segments. Altogether, I've interviewed over 70 people involved with GamerGate, and I'm going to be launching a Kickstarter campaign in the coming weeks. So please, I need your support to help make this project a reality. I'm turning these 70 plus interviews into a multi-volume series of books, the first volume of which is already completed. And so I'd like you to please stay tuned for more information about the Kickstarter. And if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and comment. More updates will be coming in the near future. Thank you, and take care.